I will give you the thumbs up. Go, man. Hi.
So I just got off a call with a friend, and she said, "It's good luck on your discussion today because Mercury's in retrograde." And she goes, "That usually messes up communications." I'm like, "No, I don't believe in that stuff." And here we are at another episode of Life Matters TV. Welcome, everybody. My name's Tommy Stoffel, and my communications seem to be working right now, but we've got a guest that's trying to get in with us, and we'll see if we can get him in. But this week I'd like to just kick things off and introduce my co-partner, fellow Soul Talk guy, and producer and director of this show, David McLeod. David, welcome. How you doing today, buddy?
Hey, good morning, Tommy. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. I've been having problems getting in myself, not able to hook into the system, and finally I got in. Yeah, so maybe there is something to this whole retrograde Mercury thingy that you were talking about. But anyway, welcome everybody. I'm sorry for the glitches and the problems, and I'm hoping that this all just works out and we get the recording done and everything works, and we're just going to have fun. Tommy and I have invited one of my friends here. His name is Christian Pedersen. He's a member of the Mankind Project. He's done his own thing. He's a life coach and a relationship expert, and he focuses a lot on heart-based communication. He and his wife do these things called Love Works for You. It's a pretty awesome set of programs that they do, and well, Christian's here, and I don't know if he can actually talk to us yet or not because we haven't figured out the microphone thing, but I can see he's on video, so I'll let everybody see him and say, "Hi, Christian!" Have you tried playing with your settings there? Because we can't hear you here. So can you do sign language? You know, big hearts, you know. So he can hear us. Maybe we'll figure out the microphone thing. But meanwhile, Tommy, let's see. We'll keep talking for a bit, and we'll give Christian a chance to try and figure out what's going on. So heart communication. What's that mean for you?
And while I'm talking about heart communication, David, why don't you make sure that for some reason you don't have him muted on your end? I know you probably don't, but let's look at it from all angles here. So communicating from the heart. My gosh. If you would ask me a few years ago what that meant, I would have said, what? I don't know. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds nutty. How can my heart communicate? I talk from my brain. My mouth works from what my brain says. And honestly, that's the way most of us talk and we interact. And just in the last couple of years, I've actually been practicing connecting with people on a different level. And some of you know this, and David, you and I, you know, sometimes our conversation, it almost feels like it drops into a different level of connecting, and then it's the conversation seems to flow in a different level, in a different place. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what Christian's going to get to today, but to me, when I hear the term communicating from the heart, it literally is a different way of connecting and interacting with a human being. David, how does this resonate with you? How do you feel about communicating from the heart?
Well, I think you're on the right track there. I mean, you're absolutely right. Many of us think about communicating in terms of, you know, the physical words we speak or the way we hear things with our ears, and so it really seems like it's mostly just an exchange of information that's happening through the physical senses. But I think there's a lot more to it than that. And in fact, you know, I've been doing a little bit of research on this myself, and I guess there's a guy, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he demonstrated that only about 7% of communication actually happens through our words, through the exchange of words. And the other 93% is a mixture of, you know, vocal quality, you know, tone of voice, volume level, that sort of thing. And 55% of it or so is based on just simple body language. And so we're communicating 93% of our stuff through senses that we don't even realize that we're engaging in. And so if we can make an effort, I think, to bring ourselves down from our heads and into our hearts and then start communicating from a place of compassion and love, then the quality of our communication can grow immensely and become, you know, far more connected, empathic, and supportive, mutually supportive. That's what I think we're talking about here.
Yeah, okay. So the mechanics of, you know, our body motion and our yeah, right. You can hear enthusiasm in people's voice. You can hear almost sincerity sometimes in people's voice. Those are the types of things that are kind of behind the words themselves, right? That's what you're getting at, and that's what you're talking about. And you can see it in people's eyes, right? If somebody's talking to you and they're engaged and they're just, you know, they're looking into your eyes, you feel much more like, wow, they're listening to me,
Right.
and I'm making a connection. And so all these things, you know, there's things we can learn how to do, right? Like how to move our hands, or how to, you know, how to smile more. But that's not it either. It's not the mechanical. It's not my brain learning a lesson. It's letting, again, just my inner sense of myself open and connect. And as I start to do that, I'm thinking, my brain goes, well, you can't do that everywhere. You can't use this communication practice everywhere. It doesn't work at work. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's starting to work at work too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think that what happens, I've noticed, is we've talked about this many times in many different contexts, but in every relationship that I'm in, I can only control my part of it. But I can make another person's part of it easier or more comfortable or more kind of connective and flowing if I open myself up and drop all my judgments to the maximum extent possible and just be receptive to what the other person is offering. I can do a huge amount to make the interchange much more healthy and successful. And I see Christian's on again on a different video call, but I don't know if he's available yet. Well, he'll chime in when he's ready. Anyway, go ahead, Tommy.
This is just pretty funny. We're talking about communications. We're having communication issues. We're having technology issues. But this is what it is. We roll with it, right? And this is part of it too. When I drop into this place of communicating, not from my head, but from my heart, and what does that actually feel like? Well, I use the word feel, right? I sometimes stop thinking about everything and stop pre-thinking everything, because that really jumbles up my communication. That, you know what? Let's talk about the mechanics of like how you interpret people when you listen to somebody on a stage. And if somebody's up there going, and then this and that, I know that whatever they're trying to say is chugging through their brain, and their brain is judging it and thinking about it, and really quick. But that's what the is and the is and the pause is and the hesitations are, because we're really trying to think, because we don't want to embarrass ourselves or say the wrong thing or say something silly or stupid, and we're chugging it through our brain. And that to me is kind of part of our communication breakdown, because we're trying to overthink what we're saying. And when I get out of that mode, which I still do, I still get in that mode of thinking like that, and at work I'm like ums and ahs and stuff like that. But here we practice this and we do this. I drop down and I'm just expressing how I'm feeling and what's coming through me and what's coming out of me. And there isn't a lot of prejudgment, right? There isn't a lot of pre-thinking. There isn't a lot of mashing of the gears going on. It's just coming out, and people feel that.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Christian, I see
you guys hearing me now?
Yay! Woo-hoo! I'm gonna kill your other connection on here, so all right, cool. I think that's fine. And now you're on just in the one connection. Excellent. So now we can see you, we can hear you. Welcome, Christian, and thank you for all the trouble you went through to get on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the irony wasn't lost on me that we're here to talk about communication, and I'm fidgeting about here to get in so we can talk about communication.
Yes, yeah. So I don't know if you've been hearing what I'm saying. We've been talking a little bit about the difference between talking from the head and talking from the heart and stuff like that. So I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I can actually hear you the whole time. And first, I just want to say thanks for inviting me on here and jumping into this awesome topic. Certainly one of my favorites. And hi to everybody else who's out there as well. I heard what you said about that 7% of what we say is words and the other 93% is tonality and body. And we've actually heard that broken down as well in a study that said about 35% of that is tonality and 58% of that is body language. Yeah. So really when we talk about communication, it's kind of interesting that whereas the words we use are totally crucial, in some ways, they're the smaller part of the equation.
Yeah.
And we mostly deal, of course, with communication in interpersonal relationships. I guess all communication is that, but mostly in intimate relationships from our point of view. And you can really, you can get how even when you can learn the most amazing and efficient communication technique, and if it isn't being spoken from a place where you could say your head and your heart and your feelings are congruent with what's coming out of your mouth, it won't work. Like the fanciest communication technique won't do you any good. And a simple example will illustrate that. You can just, I could tell my partner or you guys, I love you. And then if you can't see me and you can just hear me, so here I'll pop out of the screen for a second, and all you can hear is my voice, and I'll say, I love you. Like which is louder, the words or the tonality? Or I could say, if you could look at me as well, I could say, I love you. Yeah, you're so wonderful. It's just evident what speaks louder. And it often really messes with people in relationships that, here I am trying to say the right thing, but it's not producing the result I want.
That's right.
And we had a great example. We just did our Give Yourself to Love workshop this past weekend, and we had a great example of a couple. They've been married for many years, and they have this experience of, we just can't communicate. I just can't get my point across. And the wife in this case kept saying to the husband, you're always in your head. Just get in your heart. You're always in your head. Just get in your heart. I mean, what do I got to do to get in your heart? And why that's so interesting is that is, I mean, it's obvious when I speak it like that probably won't produce the result she's really trying to accomplish.
Right.
And really what she's doing is that I think every single one of us are guilty of, but inadvertently it's like the most common communication strategy that anybody uses for getting what we want. And it goes like, if we just keep to my field of intimate relationships, in the beginning we're all doing great, we're in love, it's fun, we have sex, it's passionate, the communication seems to be going easy, we're gracious with each other's flaws and stuff like that. And then at some point, it's not so much like that anymore. It gets harder, life sets in, you begin to see a human being instead of a god over there. And so, like, what do we do to bring it back to what it used to be when it was wonderful? Mm-hmm. Is we speak the problem as we see it. Like, we're great at identifying the problem, and we just speak it. So I might say to my partner, you're so critical, or you never talk to me anymore, or you don't listen to me, or you used to have sex with me all the time, and now it's like once a week if we're lucky. And my good intention with that is that basically you'll get it and change.
Yeah.
When someone tells me, my partner tells me, you never listen to me. Can't you just listen to me for a second? It's like there's a secret fantasy that I'll go, oh, really? Oh, my God, I'm so sorry, honey. I haven't been listening to you properly. That's going to change from this moment forth. You have my undivided attention. Anything you say is gold to me. As a matter of fact, I'm all yours right now. That's the fantasy we have. Or I tell my partner, I used to do this for real, and we obviously see a lot of people doing it. I used to do it myself. In previous times, I'd say, why don't you ever want to have sex with me anymore? We used to have sex all the time. I really like that. And now, you don't even want to do it every week. And my fantasy is that she'll say, oh, honey, that's just too bad. Of course I want you. Let's go have sex right now and whenever you want.
Yeah.
But that never happens in real life, right?
No.
Really, what we end up producing is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. And really, we call this way of communicating, we call it complaining for change.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like a movement, yeah, complaining for change. But we don't mean it as, I don't mean to be communicating a complaint when I say it.
Right.
And I certainly don't mean to be, I don't mean to be a jerk about it, or I don't mean to mess up my relationship or my partner for sure. Really what I want is just for it to be better so I can feel good.
Yeah.
And
so, Christian, I want to slow you down a little bit there. You've covered a lot of ground here.
True.
And there's a whole bunch of great stuff there. And I think in 3 or 4 minutes, you've covered like the whole world. But the first one that I wanted to catch was your word congruence. I think that's an awesome word. And it's something, I don't think Tommy and I have actually used that word, although we've certainly referred to it in roundabout ways here on this show. But congruence is a powerful word because what it really means is, I think it's related to integrity, for me personally anyway. When my thoughts, my words, my actions, and my feelings are all kind of in alignment, then I'm in integrity. But I think your word would be, that's congruence right there. And and so that's a really important word. And whenever I communicate with somebody, I want my words, my body language, and my feelings, and my vocal variety, and all the rest of it to all be kind of in alignment with the message that I'm trying to convey. And similarly, when I'm listening to my partner, I want to observe all those things and make sure that, and not only observe them, but receive them, hopefully without judgment, and just be with them. So, I mean, that's a great piece. Tommy, what did you think about all that?
Well, I followed it all and all going down the right path and loving it. And Christian, now you got me hooked. I'm like, okay, so what was it? The complaining for change?
Complaining for change.
So where do we go with that, right? Because that's what we do, right? That's our initial reaction is we see a problem, we're problem solvers, right? And we're like, here's the problem. That's if you're brave enough, or if you haven't gotten so mired in broken communications that you're even afraid to do that. But let's say you still have that going for you, and you say, you know what? I want this change, or I want something fixed here. So what's a better way of doing this, Christian? What do we do? How do we kind of draw that change or shift ourselves to bring about something that is frustrating us in a relationship?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question right there. And before I go to the sort of more practical side of what to do instead, I just want to add one more piece, if you'll allow me, which is it's really important to realize you could say the creative force of our communication, like how our communication and just the words that come out of us. They in some ways they're like if I'm talking to you, you're my partner or my whatever who I'm talking to in front of me, it's almost like my words have it's like you can imagine yourself as an uncarved block of marble, for example, and my words are kind of like can be used as a chisel to carve out the block, and it can be carved out to many different things, something beautiful, a beautiful sculpture, or something not so beautiful. So a short like an experiment is you can imagine both of you and all our viewers out there. I'm just going to try to say something and just see how it feels, how you feel hearing that, and just pretend I'm talking straight to you. You are so shut down and unfriendly, and I'm not looking forward to spending this time with you. Like, what's your immediate reaction?
I react personally, and I feel myself closing down. I say,
yeah,
you're right, I'm shut down.
Yeah, can you feel that in your throat or your chest or your gut?
Absolutely.
Like, feel the energy of that. And if you weren't censoring yourself, like, what would be the first thing you'd want to tell me?
Oh, I'd just say, fuck you, dude.
Yeah,
and the word you wrote in on.
Yeah, for real. Seriously. And that's exactly that's like the creative effect of complaining for change. Although most of us who speak it, we don't think it's a creative act. Really, we move much more like scientists who are studying the world from a neutral, objective perspective. So you'll actually hear people saying things like, "I'm just making the observation. I'm just saying." It's not, yeah, I live with you and I've just observed that, you're pretty critical. Oh my God, you look pretty shut down. I'm just saying. So in my
Yeah.
thinking that I'm making a neutral observation, in reality, I'm having a really big impact. Like I could take a couple of awesome guys, for example, like you, who are perfectly open, and here we are talking, and literally help create you to feel shut down instead. So same
Right.
if I say you two are the most awesome guys I've hung out with for a long time. You're just so exciting and engaged, and I just cannot wait to get to know you better.
Yeah.
There's an immediately a different response to that.
Yes, and the interesting thing about what you're saying is in both cases, it's just your judgment about us. And what I believe, and what Tommy and I have talked about in the past, is no matter what side of that judgment coin you're on, whether it's a positive judgment or a negative judgment, my belief is you're still trying to, you're motivated, I believe, from a desire to give or receive love. I don't think anybody, well, very few people go out of their way to deliberately hurt other people. That doesn't happen very often. More often than not, we do it accidentally because we're trying to get something for ourselves, or we're trying to give something to our partner that we think they want, and maybe we've misinterpreted or whatever. I think most of the time our intentions are actually pretty positive. And,
Yep.
and you've been talking a lot about this complaining for change really is just a form of strategy for me to get something that I want. And what I want is to make you happy in some way, and so I make a complaint to try and fix something. Or maybe what I want to do is make my life better, so I complain and hope that you will change. Yeah, it's a strategy that's doomed to failure right from the start.
Yeah, and I totally love what you're saying about that really comes from a positive intent. That is exactly my experience. That really, I'm always trying to accomplish something good.
Yeah.
Nobody gets up in the morning thinking, I'm going to really mess up my relationships today. Nobody ever does that. We just all want a good thing. But it's real. So that's why I'm saying with even the best communication strategies, if you don't realize first sort of the power of our communication, then the best strategies, if they aren't spoken congruently like we talked about, will just still backfire. Just like complaining for change. It's trying to accomplish something good, and it consequently backfires. Like every single time, no exceptions. So back to your question, Tommy, about, okay, great. So what do we do about this? And it was funny, we have several different ways of talking about that. And I was just reading, I came across a John Gray book, the Mars Venus guy.
Yeah.
That was written, I think, 10 years before he got famous with his Mars and Venus stuff. It's like a little relationship book. It has like his own hand drawings in it. It's really fun and simple and entertaining. And he's got this great acronym he says the cure for much of all this is, he calls it simply, telling the full, complete truth. And what he means with that, which is exactly like how we talk about it as well, is communicate the whole piece, which includes in my communication how I feel, what I'm making up in my mind, what I really want, and what I love. So you're basically in one communication. Granted, I'll give you some examples, and granted, this can be easier said than done. It takes some practice, but it can totally be done. So I'll just give you some simple examples without getting too technical about it. But important to just stress that in one communication, we try to just go from being honest about, hey, here's how I feel. Pissed off, hurt, sad, scared, something like that. A genuine feeling. And here's what I'm making up. And it's important, again, to realize that, what you called judgments before, in my communicating with you and having some sort of reaction, I don't like what you just said, or it doesn't have to be something you said, it can be about something else entirely. There's something I'm thinking about that. Right? I'm making a conclusion in my mind about what that means. So here I am with you. You show up late to our appointment for the 3rd time in a row. I feel angry. What do I think that means? I think it means you don't care about timing. I think it means you don't care about me. I think you're wasting my time. I think you're an asshole. I think it means that I'm not worth your time, which must mean that I'm not worth very much, period. Like, all of that is, I'm making that up about this incident.
That's right.
So in a communication, it's really great to communicate that. Like, to just be honest about, hey, I just made all this stuff up. Could be true, could not be true, I can't be sure, but it's true that I just made it up.
Yeah.
Really what I want is, well, I'd like you to be on time. I'd like you to communicate to me if you can't be. I'd like to enjoy our time together and not feel stressed about time and not caring or not mattering. I'd like all that. And what I love is to bring ourselves back to, really to circle back to the love and positive intention that exists between us.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
I love that you would come. I love that you would come make a time with me. Love that you would meet with me in the first place. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, this is beautiful stuff, and you know, this is stuff that Tommy and I talk about all the time, but I like the way you've just kind of encapsulated it into a nice little blob that we can just offer to our viewers and say, hey, take this home and try it with your loved ones, or even if they're not loved ones, anybody that you're in relationship with, just try it. See what happens. I think what you're talking about there, Christian, is being vulnerable, being willing to share what's going on, the pain in your heart and why it's hurting you, and tell the person just straight up, this is a story I'm making up, and we're all making up stories all the time. It's something that we do, and just share it. This is it, and this is who I am, and this is how I'm reacting to it, and this is what's going on for me, and I really want the connection with you. I think it's powerful. Tommy, did you have a way of summarizing that whole thing? Because I know you're good at this.
Yeah, I sure do. I'm over here writing because Christian, beautiful the way you laid it out. And here's those 4 steps. Here's how it went for me. Tell him how I feel. Well, what's that doing? Well, first of all, I'm not coming from my judgmental head with what do I want? You know, it's not an attack. It's coming from my heart. How does this make me feel? So I start with my heart. I'm leading with my heart. And then I'm addressing my nutty head. I'm like, here's what I'm making up. Here's the things the conclusions I'm jumping to. Here's, you know, the things I'm thinking about. Here's the anger that's bubbling up. It's kind of what we're thinking. And then we take that, now that we just kind of looked at our own thoughts with our mirror, where we said, now, here's what I really want. Now we bring some common sense into our thoughts and we kind of project that up in step 3. And then the 4th part, we drop it back down into the heart. Here's what I love. Like, we get back into the feeling, and it's just it's very smooth. It's very beautiful because you're starting with feelings. You're opening the connection, and then you're talking through the nuttiness going on, and then really, what does it really mean? What would I really want? And then you back to here's what I love, and it just flows. I love the way the flow goes, and I'm gonna use that. Thanks.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you know, we did this this little piece with a group. We have we laid it over a phone call with a group of people in our programs, and we had people pair up and pretend like practice this with each other about something that really, you know, that really gets on them, something real that really gets on them in their life. And the person who's listening, so this is a great idea too, for those of you, if you have a partner or a friend with whom you can set this sort of stuff up, you know, it might not work in your workplace just like this. It'll require a little modification. But if you have a friend or a partner you can play this with, just tell your partner, here, if you would just be willing to just listen. I'm just going to express myself. I don't need anything for you to do anything about it. Simply just listen to this. Yeah. So that was the instruction to the listener. Just listen. There's nothing for you to fix or do here. And then we had them express themselves like that. And really the reactions or the experiences across the board was such great relief to get to express oneself like that. Yeah. And many people expressed like relief over this experience of, wow, I didn't have to, oh, here, sorry, let me see if I can silence that. You know, I don't have to many of us, we're so used to when we speak things like that, like I feel mad or what I'm making up, that the other person will immediately start to defend themselves and or add solutions or tell me why that wasn't exactly what happened, or and it amounts to the communicator never feeling quite heard.
Yep.
Always having this internal drive to say it again and again and again until I find some way that it's being heard.
Yeah.
So it's really great if you can tell the listener, and you can practice this, we can all practice this, of course, when we are the listener, to really honor, and if we want to say anything, it's to say, wow, I really appreciated that you had the guts to be real or vulnerable or authentic like that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, from a listener standpoint too, right? You're going to very much appreciate the consideration and the thought that the other person's putting into expressing themselves. Like if somebody's going to go through the situation, not the trouble, but go through the steps of, okay, here's how I'm feeling, here's why, here's some of the stuff going on in my head that's making up this drama. Here's what I really want from a logical standpoint, and here's what I love. And boy, if somebody talks to me like that, I'm just going to go, thanks, sweetheart. That's the nicest thing.
Well, guys, look, I hate to do this, but we're already at the end of our half hour here. And,
right.
I'm afraid to tell you, but I have to get going. I got another commitment that I have to be at in like 25 minutes. So I want to just say, Christian, thank you so much for joining us today. I know we had some challenges with the electronic form of communication and getting all that working, but I have no doubt that your heart was open and that your presence was here, and I just really want to appreciate you for showing up and being with us.
And here, thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation. Yeah, I apologize for the mess up in the beginning, and if you let me here, I'll post a link here in the chat forum. I don't know if you need to put that out or everybody can see that, but that's we wrote a free ebook about communication. It's called The Communication Charm: How to Get What You Want from Your Partner.
Great.
So I'd love to offer that to you and to everybody else who's on the line here.
Great, thank you. And so, Tommy, what do we got going next week? Do you know? Or is that me?
We've got, next week we have a special guest joining us again, and David, you're going to have to remind me of her name, but we're talking about mayhem to mojo, or mojo after mayhem. We're talking about how we go through some really hard times in our lives that can really break us to our knees, and how do we get our energy back? How do we step back into life and become vibrant and alive again, even after some of the worst things that can happen to somebody?
Yep. Well, that lady's name is Barbara Musser, and a good friend of yours, I'm sure, Christian. She's gone through a lot of her own challenges in life, and her business now is called Sexy After Cancer. So her whole presentation, that's what we're going to be talking about next week, is reclaiming your mojo. And it's going to be a really fun topic, and we're going to have fun with it. Thank you all for joining us today. Love you all. Take care, and bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Thanks, Christian. Great meeting you.